Welcome to Six of One and Bill of the Other. What is the topic of this week's discussion, Bill?
The dark and sad life of Boogie2988. I just picture a bunch of people going, who the hell is Boogie2988?
Do you think anyone out there is actually thinking that?
Yes. I think there are people that know who he is, but yeah, I think there are definitely some people that would watch our show that go, who?
He seems pretty ubiquitous, doesn't he? Bill, what does ubiquitous mean? Have I used it in the right context?
Yeah.
Present, appearing, or found everywhere.
That's how I felt about Boogie when I first started my internet journey on YouTube. But I missed the whole Francis stuff. Were you ever into that?
No, I was never like a person that watched it every week. When I saw the documentary, it came up on my feed, and I was fascinated by it. And I just knew he looked familiar from somewhere. And when they said he did the Francis stuff, I said,
He franchised it.
He franchised it. Well, he did. Here's the thing. This character named Francis, and he would just complain about video games, and he got
4 million subscribers.
And he made $500,000 a year. So I told Six that that's our new show.
So you sent me a link to a kind of documentary on Boogie2988.
Yeah.
And so we watched it, and we were going to talk about like the themes.
Yeah.
And
it's very sad. It's actually called
The Dark, Sad Life of Boogie2988.
And I was saying one word can make such a difference, because if it was like the dark, mysterious life of Boogie, you'd be like, oh, this guy is man of mystery. Instead, you're pathetic.
He's nailed the... it's all about thumbnail and title, right?
Yeah.
I've always known that. I've always failed with it, but he's got it right. What you're saying is he hooked you in.
Yes.
He hooked you in with the sad life.
Well, and I think...
A different word, and you'd have got nothing!
And it's sad. Like, it's so embarrassing for him that I have to suspect it's fake and done on purpose. Like, you don't... It's like putting a hit job on yourself. And I wonder, like, one of the first questions I asked is, why do I watch stuff like this? And I think the answer is, one, it's spectacle. It's the old Jerry Springer show where they just bring out the worst thing you could... it's like, Jimmy is married to a teddy bear, and he goes out and makes out with it at the mall, and he's like, don't you say nothing about my teddy bear, and it's a big ratings thing. And but I think the other reason is it's very difficult being a responsible adult. It's hard. And so when you watch someone make every single wrong decision, you come out the end like you're like, I should write a book on how to be a responsible adult. You go from second guessing yourself to feeling really great about how you're doing. So I think it's when you're a kid and your brother gets in trouble, you're like, I pay my mortgage. I'm not running at him. I have a job. And he just
So there's a feel-good aspect. Aspect to it.
In a bad way. I mean,
sort of thing.
I don't think that's a healthy thing I don't think it's a good thing to watch people that are making mistakes and like to gloat. But I think there is an element of that. I think that's why a lot of people enjoy talking about stuff like this.
I've currently just watched all of the social catfish videos on YouTube. Have you ever watched those videos?
No, what's that?
Just look it up. Look it up. They're quite funny. I've watched about 100 of them in a row.
Like, what's the
They'll
premise?
make you feel better about your own life. People who get scammed in relationships and end up sending thousands of pounds. And some of it's probably genuine, but I'll say here's something for you, right? Does it matter? When you talk about Jerry Springer, and by the end, certainly it was all faked.
Yeah.
Right? Does it matter if it's still enjoyable? Just say this Boogie documentary. Just say it's.
Yeah.
And I certainly think a lot of it is
Staged.
Staged, right?
Yeah.
Does it matter? Does that matter?
Yes, because that's part of it's like for Borat. Do you remember the movie Borat? Borat was great because obviously he's playing a character, but he's going to real people, and it's their genuine reaction. And then he did another movie where he was like a dictator, and it was all staged, and I had no interest in it because what makes it funny.
Yeah, I never watched it.
What makes it funny is that it's sort of real, and you get that he's it's a setup for a joke, but then the people's reaction is genuine. So I think it has to be. I think knowing that he staged a little bit does take away from it. I mean, I still watched it. It worked. He's got all kinds of publicity, and I know someone else technically made the documentary. But I think what you're saying is the staged part, when it really came through, was he goes to a job interview and he hurts his foot, and it's a very professional. It's like an office with a woman, and she's dressed up nicely, and he is not.
It was brilliant.
He is not, and it's like everything. If you've ever worked a professional position, it's everything. So she's like, okay, so why don't you tell me a little about yourself? And he does it like what I shouldn't say. Like he tells he's like, well, I'm a convicted felon. He goes, I worked at a GameStop like 20 years ago. But I do a YouTube channel where I do the voice of Francis, and he goes, when you Google me, it might say I'm a racist and a and then he phrased it where I think what he was trying to say is people online are accusing him of being a but the way it came out, he was like, they say I'm a racist and I'm a so it came across like he was saying that, yes, I am, like matter-of-factly, yeah, you might find that in my record. And then he's like, plus I'm depressed, so I have, it's very difficult for me to like work at all. Like I get disinterested really fast, and out of shape, so I'm hurt quite often. Like, and it just kept going, and it was like a skit.
It was a comedy. It was a comedy sketch, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I take it she was just an actress, yeah. Not a
No,
real job.
I mean,
I took it as a very. I really liked that bit. I thought that was a comedy sketch.
I might be a bit
Scripted comedy sketch.
Gullible Bill, but I think that they literally walked into it because I used to have a job where I worked for an HR firm, and you would go and you would fill positions for like an employer's needs, people with the skill set, and we'd interview them and send them over. And I think that she was a real person. Like in that job that they called, because that's funnier. Like if I was filming it as a joke, I think it would be funnier to have a real person than to have an actor just do that.
Okay.
At one point, did you see where she took the breath?
And then
Where she was like, and then gonna interrupt him, and he's like, by the way, I crap my pants.
Okay,
and
right.
like,
So let's just say that she's a real person, and he's gone there, and they said, "Can we film this?" But he's still doing all of that on purpose.
Well, yes,
and it's still a comedy. It's still a comedy sketch.
If we wanted to believe it was real, could we believe that he was sabotaging on purpose because he didn't? Because I thought of this. I've talked about, when I was younger and I'd be working like 2 or 3 jobs, and they're like these awful like retail jobs, and in my mind, I was always like, well, I don't belong here. I'm going to get out of here, and I'm doing better than that. I'm not a rock star like I had in my mind, but I thought, what's it like when you have 4 million subscribers and you're making $500,000 a year to kind of just goof off in your room and do what you want, and then suddenly you have to be like a fry cook. The just inertia of hitting that wall. I could see it that maybe he talked about it like it's because they say a thing he does is he'll make a mistake and then he'll say, you're right. And he'll ask for advice online and people will give him good advice and then he just doesn't follow it. So is it something where he's like, I know I got to get a job because he was the whole documentary, he's losing money. So, and this doesn't make, he lives, I think, in like Arkansas, where for those who are not American, the cost of living in Arkansas is like half of, if not more, than if you live in New York City. It's like insane prices. And I live in the tri-state area by Philadelphia and New Jersey. The taxes are very high and the cost of living is very high. So what it costs me to do business here in Arkansas, I'd be much easier. And he claims he needs $7,000 a month just to like live it, and that blows. As a person who's married and has children and a mortgage, needing $7,000 a month just made me laugh. Like for a single guy living in his house with like a pet. And so I think that maybe the idea of having to leave and even the ego shock of having to go get a regular job. It could be possible that this was a real woman and he went. I think at the very least he sabotaged it on purpose. But it was a very funny scene.
I thought the whole documentary, right? So it's just a YouTuber, isn't it? Who's I read they're already friends, or he's asked Boogie if he can film him for a documentary. And to me, like, they've gamed it. Like they've had to come up with an idea, tension, and the tension that they've decided upon is the idea of putting the costs on the screen and saying that you've got a budget and showing how the budget diminishes through all the silly activities that he's gonna do.
He does the thing where they did from that sketch show where he pulls up to the fast food. He's like 55 burgers, 55 fries, 55 shakes, 55. Somebody who will get that reference, and it's clearly not you. But then he does where he bought.
Was that a Trump reference?
No, no.
Didn't Trump order like 100 McDonald's burgers?
No. Trump does the thing where like he walks in and he goes, "Hey everybody, guess what? I'm paying for everything. It's all on me." And everybody goes, "Woo!" And then he just leaves. He doesn't pay. He's done that quite a few
That's why I've always said Trump, salt of the earth.
Oh, Jesus.
What? Salt of the earth.
I'm not. No comment.
No comment. Yeah. So to me, right. So to me, I watched it as a documentary that Boogie's, they're kind of in on. They talk about it, how they're going to frame it, how they're going to get some jokes into it. And to me, the job centre one was a joke. And let's have a comedy where I go in and I say all the very worst things you can possibly say.
Well, he starts it in the bathtub, which we've always thought of as an idea. Just film where we're in the bath. Like, was that Roosevelt where they would come in and he'd be, you have to meet him in the bath and he'd be plotting out what to do with
was that Roosevelt? Wasn't Trump again, was it?
There was a few.
Doesn't Trump eat McDonald's in the bath?
I don't
know.
Why is this turned into a Trump? I don't know why. Is this a Trump rally 6 or something you want to tell me?
That's salt of the earth.
All of a sudden, we're just going into... I have no idea what the man... Well, besides keeping classified documents, I have no idea what he does in the bathroom. Anyway, moving along. I thought that scene where you were talking about he has that budget, and then he has a scene where he spends like $200 to get pizza and tacos, and all of his buddies are playing Magic the Gathering. And it was really sad to me because they're his buddies. And these are kind of, for lack of a better term, a little bit lonelier guys, I'll say. And they're kind of sitting there and they're just trying to have fun. And Boogie's said some bad things and he's lied and he said some racist things and sexist things. So you're not really on his side watching. But the other guys were probably just normal guys. I don't know them, but they seem like just normal guys. And he takes the camera and he'll like put it, it's like he'll put it in your face, Six, and you'll go, God, Six, man, you haven't had a girlfriend in what? It's been like, 3 years? And the guy just like looks at his feet and he's like, technically, maybe. Kind of like, look, and you know, and this is his friend, and the poor guy's going, oh no, millions of people are going to see this, and he's just mortified, but he doesn't care. It's like content, put it right in your face.
I do this every day, though. I do this every day. I stop people in the street. I don't even know them, and I do this.
Yeah, it's like, I bought you pizza rolls, so I get to skewer you in the court of public opinion.
I do. I walk down the street with my camera, and I see a chap, and I walk up to him and I say, yeah, "Excuse me, sir, you look like the sort of person who hasn't had a girlfriend in 5 years." Are you saying that I'm doing this to make myself feel better by putting those around me down?
He does it, and he does it in the way that's the worst. He does it in the you're like me, which is the worst insult. So let me explain, right? If I came in to your work and said, "You're
into this room,"
yes. If I came into let's say I came into a public place and I went,
"You're ugly, ha ha ha."
It's not great, but you can sort of get over it. But if I came up to you and I was very ugly, and then I said, "Guys like us, man, didn't get the got hit twice with the ugly stick. Like that's because it's like that person has identified you as one of them. It's like it just gets right in your soul. It's that's I think the worst insult is
That's the worst.
Guys like us.
you know.
Guys like us.
Yeah.
There's something about putting those around you down to make yourself feel better rather than just raising yourself up.
I hear that's the bedrock of any good friendship. It's publicly shaming the other person to make yourself feel slightly better.
See, I saw this documentary as a learning experience and an opportunity for my future. I was ticking off things that I'm going to do from now on.
Yeah.
And
Invest in crypto.
oh, what do you see? So now, before I watched this documentary, you sent me the link, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll watch that. We'll talk about that. And I've watched Boogie for a few years now. Like I say, I missed the Francis stuff. But
So sorry to interrupt you, is his normal shtick besides the Francis stuff, is he like a lol cow? Like is the idea that like everyone watching him is making fun of him and he's grifting off of that? Or do you think it's more like he's trying to be on the level but he also gets...
oh my God, I don't know. I've always seen it as I've quite liked him overall. He's always, this is the weird thing, right? So I watched the videos where he was being quite heartfelt and earnest to camera. At least I thought he was, and through all the weight stuff and the gastric bypass and the having his teeth fixed and stuff, and he seemed like quite an honest, genuine guy. But then you read about him and you see the stuff that's been done about him, and it's tricky. But overall, I quite like him, and I think hey,
I'm sorry.
and I think he's playing the character of Boogie.
Yeah.
So people think that he's Boogie playing the character Francis or whatever, but I think he's always knowingly playing the character, and I think in this documentary that comes across.
Well, I think
He's playing the character, and they're gaming the system and they're gaming the documentary. And it's like when I was doing reactions to music, you're trying to find a hook, something to do differently. And there was a couple of episodes, a Kendrick Lamar one and a Steve Lacy one, where I put a counter on the screen and I would listen to the music and I would talk about the good points and the bad points, and the counter would go up for how good the music was as I was talking about it. And by the end, it would decide that this counter up the side of the screen would decide whether the artist was going to get godlike status. And Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, Mad City did indeed get godlike status. And I thought, this was it. I've got a thing that I'm doing different, and it failed completely and no one watched it. So I never did it ever again. And that's what, with this documentary, I thought, they're clever enough to know that we need to have some stick here, something to hang this on. So we'll have the counter and the idea that we start off by saying how much money this guy needs per month. And they kind of framed it with that. I thought overall it failed completely.
I think
on that, unfortunately.
I was thinking that
I didn't believe it for a second. Anyway,
I was thinking that the whole sad part, let's just say it is a stunt. So your whole living and you're making good money is your personality and people watching you and enjoying you. And then you get to a point where you're on a sinking ship, because he said racist and sexually,
yes,
bad stuff. And also, like, they say he lies a lot. I'm doing allegedly on all this. I've watched the documentary and I've read a little. Allegedly, I don't know him and I haven't watched a ton of his videos. This is just what I'm gleaming. But like, and so I'm not. I'm just I guess positing questions. But I wonder, how sad is it because you have this following and then they're jumping ship and you're feeling that with your money and just with your popularity, because I'm sure we all like attention. We probably wouldn't be doing this if we didn't like attention. And then though you decide that bad attention is still attention, and please don't do that when I'm talking. Please don't lick your lips while I'm talking, man. So like you make a mockery of yourself, and like, if he's knowingly doing it and just dragging his own name through the mud, just to get a little bit more money. Like, how bad is that? I mean, and maybe he doesn't care.
Well,
let me put it in perspective. The first, he gets out of the bathtub in this documentary, and he says, I won't get into the sordid details, but he's spending a lot of his money on sex workers, and he's doing this sort of Richard Gere thing where he's like taking them to Las Vegas and they're going to fancy dinners and everything. And the woman says she had sex with him, and it was so bad that she quit sex work. This is a quote. And then 2 minutes later, the guy making the documentary goes, Boogie really genuinely cares what people think of him. And I'm like an old school film noir detective. I'm like, we're playing a game of show and tell. You're telling me that he cares what people think of me. You're showing me some lady saying she quit sex work because she had sex with him once. And I'm just saying, it's like you're putting that out into the ether. You're putting that out into the world.
that was funny. That was a sketch, wasn't it? It was a sketch.
But still, like, that's on Google.
It's a comedy sketch.
So like 50 years from now, when he's like in the retirement home playing bingo, Esther's gonna be like, I looked you up on the internet and it said you made a woman of the night quit her job.
But you should be proud of that. Imagine that. Imagine doing that. The power.
Different definitions of pride.
I used to watch him, right? I used to watch his videos, and I quite liked the earnest, heartfelt stuff, and I quite liked the guy. But you're quite right. When you hear some of the things he said, I think he's one of those people that says things for dramatic effect, says things for clicks, probably, whether he means it all or not. If he means it, he's not a very nice bloke. But there's probably something about having that many followers, that many people that at some point in time have pressed, you've moved them enough to do that with their finger on the subscribe button. And if it gets up into the realms of 4 million, it's like an unfathomable. Can you imagine having 4 million people thinking at some point in your life that you're good enough to, like that Black Mirror episode where it's all about likes.
Yeah.
At some point in time, Boogie caused enough people, 4 million people, to go, I like you. I'll click on that. Like, for your ego.
I'm definitely guessing here, but I'm guessing that he probably wasn't the most popular guy in high school coming up. So you're also coming from a place where you're not the guy, and then suddenly you're way more the guy than anyone you've ever met is. Yeah. And what that must do to your sense of self, and when you lose, it's like they talk about, like basketball players and football players spend all their money and they get millions, and then they retire and they're broke because they're just so used to that. And then even the idea of the attention, and then it's just gone. That people just can't handle that.
But it was interesting watching it because I watched him through the years. So he did tried to do the weight loss, and he did the gastric band thing, and then he fixed his teeth. And with every thing that he did to improve himself,
it became worse.
He would lose viewers. That must be quite
that kind of makes sense to me.
It must be difficult mentally for him. It must be difficult to know that every time he tries to improve himself,
and I think
then he bought a Tesla and ruined it all. No, but every time he tries to improve himself, the people wanted him to be a fat, ugly bloke. They wanted that.
Yes, I'm typing because I want to make sure this percentage is right.
Yeah, they wanted to watch the big, fat, ugly bloke. They didn't want the skinnier, better looking bloke. And I think if you are trying to be a successful person and you realise that the thing that's your real selling point is being oafish and
I think you could instead of saying oafish, you could I'd put it nicer. I'd say identifiable. I always reference,
I don't know. Yeah, well, is it identifiable?
Well, think about it. It's like identifiable. What means is maybe a little worse off than you are watching, because it makes you feel.
Okay, we're back to that.
People always say like people
feel
tend
better
not
about
to,
ourselves.
They say like in entertainment, people don't like the smart guy. they like the dumb guy. Like people
No,
don't
no one
want to,
likes
you know
me.
what I mean? Like you were saying, as he fixed himself up, people liked him less. And maybe I think it's identifiable, and it's more a character too. It's like no one wants the Philly fanatic to look more handsome. And I'm not saying he's. I'm just saying, like, people view you a certain way, and he was like the heavy-set, goofy gamer guy. And unless he becomes, and I think it's just more marketable. It's easier to like categorize somebody that way. And then the more he looks like just a normal guy, the less interesting he might be to the viewers. So yeah, that's probably a weird thing for him to come to terms with.
So you got a situation then where you have 4 million subscribers, and I think he was making money from it as well, because you can have subscribers and make zero.
No, he said that they said in the documentary he was making at the peak, he was making about $500,000 a year.
Wow. And
didn't pay off his house. Didn't pay off his house, put it all in crypto, and then lost it.
Is that true, do you think? I
Yes.
never know with these things. Do you think that's
I
true?
think it's true.
Right.
Because I think if anything, this is a grift for money. Like it's a call for attention to get money.
We've got an example here of someone who had, in terms of being a YouTube person, which we're trying to be, he kind of had it all.
Yeah.
And we're now seeing how someone deals with losing it all.
It is funny that like we're doing this, and the one guy, they brought in a guy who's like another guy who's a bunch of YouTube. He's like, the one thing you never want to do is complain. Like that's not going to get you more. And we do this all the time. We're going to complain about your show. He's like, Boogie does this all the time. That's the one thing you never want to do. And I'm like, we do that constantly. And then
Isn't it weird? Because I disagree with that completely. Because if you want to get views on YouTube, it's absolutely creating drama. You complain about everything.
Yeah.
Well,
the problem, though, is if you complain about everything, that's not a person I want to hang out with all the time. Why would I want to tune into somebody who's complaining all the time?
Yeah, but you look at the way that you look at YouTube videos, thumbnails and titles and what people click on. They're going to click on something that is true. It's got drama in it, and it's
You're right.
saying
They're not gonna,
this thing's rubbish.
They're not going to click on the "it's going well" video.
No, you try. If we put this podcast out in two forms, right?
Yeah.
One says, actually, my overall vibe is that I don't think he's that bad a guy. I think he's, he's playing up. He's an attention seeker. He's playing up for the camera. He needs to get views. He knows what he's doing. No one's going to click on that. But if we put a video out that says the top 10 reasons why Boogie's a piece of shit, it'll get clicks.
Yeah. You were talking about in your video, not the last one, the one before, about what if you had 5 years and thinking about your life in terms of that. And I think that he is proof that living carpe diem, baby, is not the answer. Because, if I found out I was going to die tomorrow, I'd be drinking a milkshake right now, smoking cigarettes. I'm not a very exciting guy. Like, it's not like I'd literally be just drinking milkshakes and smoking cigarettes. But he did that. He spent all his money. He YOLO'd on crypto. He just ate what he felt like. He and he is the end result. Like if you don't die,
that's the thing. That's the thing that we miss.
You have to die.
live every day like it's your last.
Yeah.
Involves caviar, hookers.
Yeah.
The problem is, if it's not your last.
They just got a great big bill and a full belly. A full belly and a full bill. From,
What did you think about the? Because I thought overall the documentary was quite good. I think it's only. I'm not sure. We should do some research, but I think it was only someone like me or you just going and filming him and editing it together. It's only a like a home video type. Thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a regular. I think it was his only documentary, and he went over and filmed him. Yeah,
I had my primary issue with it, and this is such a big issue that I was just tearing my hair out. All the subtitles, all the lettering when it came up on the screen, whatever you call it. What's the official word, Bill? I should know. I use it myself.
Captions.
Captions. When the captions come up, he closed captions, right? the CCs, right? Right. Every time they come up on the screen, they use this one that it puts it up. It puts it up, like bits and pieces, and then it's down. And then I hated it. God, I've done things like that myself before. I've used that where you sort of put the letters on individually.
Yeah.
Right, and then I go, no, let's get rid of that and just put it up normally. Schoolboy error. Didn't like it.
The one thing that got to me and I thought was interesting, and
I'm a CC. I'm a CC. I must because I'm what do you call when someone's has issues with something. I want to say pedant, but it sounds like a bit like what you know
pedantic.
Like,
pedantic.
I don't know. It's not pedantic. There's a word. Hang on. Let me just look
obsessive
up
compulsive.
No, it's not obsessive compulsive. It was just shit. Closed captions, but it was terrible. Absolutely terrible. What's pet? I don't want to get mixed up with. Hang on.
Yes, you're
pedant.
That's a means. It means you don't like closed captions.
I have to beep that word every time we say it because.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
If you say it on YouTube, you instantly get banned. A person who is excessively concerned with minor details. Right?
Pedantic.
Yeah.
Pedantic.
Right. So pedant, right? Yeah, I'm a subtitle and closed caption pedant.
I have to.
Can you even remember what you were going to say now that I've just done that?
Yes, I can. And I was going to say,
on.
number one, in my old age, I have to watch everything with subtitles now, even English
So do I.
shows.
So do I.
I find I retain a lot more. I was going to say,
isn't that funny? I read. Sorry to butt in once more, but
right.
I read a stat recently that the majority of people now, the majority of Netflix viewers watch everything with subtitles.
I just said that as a humble brag to prove I'm literate. Anyway, I like reading I like reading so much. I read while I watch TV. I read the show.
Do you know what my skill is? My skill in life. Do you know what my skill in life is?
What?
Right? I can read instantly anything. So subtitles. You know when people go, "Oh, I can't watch foreign films because the subtitles. I don't want to read. I want to watch the film." Right? Well,
I picture a T-Rex saying that. I picture a T-Rex saying that.
As I was actually doing Donald Trump.
They're like, I can't see.
Oh, I'm doing that.
I don't know why you're.
I can read instantly. So you can put any words in front of me, and I don't have to read it along. I can see. I just read it. So I don't read subtitles. I just see it, and I can read like a book. If I read,
so you can look at a page and know what the
I can look at a page and see it all and read it all instantly.
Well, then how am I a faster reader? When we did Sherlock Holmes, I was done in like a day. It took you like
no. That's what you don't understand. What happened was I never read the book. Yeah, I never read it, and then minutes before we went on, I quickly read it, and it only took me about 5 seconds.
So you're like you're like the girl in The Fifth Element. You can just flash books at you.
It's like my superpower. I can read instantaneously anything, right? But the problem is, as far as like Marvel superheroes go, if you're going to go into battle as Avengers, and you know you got me on your team, what use am I? What use am I?
Give you the manual for the laser guns, so we know how to work them.
What were you going to say? What were you going to say before I told you my superpower?
I still remember it. I was going to say I thought it was interesting that when he said I deserve a supermodel, like he was saying he spent $200,000 on women, and he goes, I deserve to have a supermodel with me on as we go to Las Vegas, and I've never slept with a 10, and I deserve to. And it reminded me a lot of like that incel movement where a guy's like, I'm me. Like, so I think you watch like Paul Blart Mall Cop, right? And he works in the mall and he looks like Paul Blart and he has the most beautiful, any movie where there's a schlubby guy who's got like a really attractive wife or love interest, and you go, in real life, it does.
No,
in real, you are just. I was just gonna say the idea that you deserve women because you're you. I think Hollywood has sort of gave people the impression that every hero at the end of the movie deserves. And I'm not saying that there haven't ever been pretty girls with schlubby guys. I'm a schlubby guy, so, and my wife's pretty. But I think that the idea of I deserve, and, if I hold a door for a girl, that she has to, do whatever I want now with me. And I'm furiously angry if they don't. That kind of came out. Just that attitude of, he's like, I never slept with a perfect 10. I deserve it. Was just a weird way to look at it to me. It's like looking at women like you look at buying stuff. That was funny. The mic.
Yes. Right. Quick, before you say about that, right?
Yeah.
You said he spent $200,000.
Yeah.
On women. Was that on one woman or on lots of women?
Multiple.
Because if you're spending $200,000 on women, don't you get a 10 at that point?
Well, he's saying he did. But he's saying he got those women because he's like, I deserve it. And it was almost like a woe is me story. Like, I never got to sleep with a, he's on those commercials where they're playing sad music. And he's like, I never got to sleep with a perfect 10. And I'm 40 now. So please, just for the price of a cup of coffee a day, I can sleep with a perfect 10. And it was sort of like he was trying to make us feel bad for him. And I just thought that was such a weird way.
It's weird because I've never been with anyone who's less than a perfect 10, so I feel like I need to do the opposite. I need to find a 1.
Says the guy whose name is Mercurial number 6.
Hey, you should have met 1 to 5.
He's not the Mercurial number. He's not the Mercurial number 10. When I was a kid, and the Different Strokes would have that episode where Arnold learned an important lesson. There was one where
the end of He-Man as well.
There was a guy where a guy had drugs and he had a reefer. It's like, oh, we can smoke reefer. And then they come in and he's like, no. What was that? Saved by the Bell, where she was screaming because she was on the drugs. She's like, I love it. I can't. Oh, there was this famous thing. It was really funny. And
was it, Bill? Was it that funny?
It was funny.
Was Screech involved? Was Screech involved?
Screech was in the episode.
Yes! Did I just reference somebody from Saving by the Bell?
There was Screech and Zach. Screech. And I can't remember the other people. There was Screech and Zach.
Did Zach have blonde hair? Was he the good-looking bloke with blonde hair?
That was him.
Right.
And I read an article that he slept with every female member of the cast. But no, I just thought that attitude of women, you're looking on an Amazon. You're on Amazon and you're picking out women. I deserve was just a kind of weird thing. And I think that, and not just because he said it, because I've seen that more and more in society as a thing.
I've just pulled up his, not pulled up his pants. I've just pulled up his Wikipedia page.
I didn't think you said that. If it's any help to you, you're I didn't mean that I pulled up his pants. It's like, oh, thanks. I'm glad you clarified that. I just pulled up his pants.
I just pulled up his Wikipedia page. And it's got a list of the buying of the Tesla, controversial statements against his internet trolls, mentioning.
Oh, I remembered the Saved by the Bell thing. She goes, I'm so excited. I'm so scared. And it was a very serious, but so it was meant to be very you're supposed to go, oh my God, but it was really funny because how she acted in it was terrible. So it was a meme, as they say.
And what was she doing? She wasn't meeting Boogie, was she? What was she doing?
She was addicted to Boogie2988. She was addicted to some kind of drug. I don't know what the drug was. It's been a while.
Sorry. Yeah, looking at the negatives against him, even on his Wikipedia page, not looking into all the shit that gets written on Reddit and all that kind of crap that I never look at, but just looking at his Wikipedia page, you got aggravated assault.
That's when you fight somebody and you're pissed off. You're aggravated.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, I'm aggravated every day, in, day out.
Yeah. So add some assault to that, and then it's a crime.
But there's plenty of this. I mean, anyone can pull this page up now and look at it. There's plenty of reasons here which contradict my notion that he's actually probably a pretty nice guy who's playing a game, like an internet clickbait game. I think this has a lot to do with the idea of the internet came along and YouTube came along, and it basically, I know it took effort on his part, but it basically plucks someone from obscurity and makes them famous. It makes them famous.
And he's been doing it for 20 years, so he hit YouTube right when it was starting, and there weren't a lot of big money operations to compete with. And people were like, "Oh, I never saw a regular person doing this." And was it was game commentary? That was his thing?
I think the Francis thing, it was mocking his own weight. I think it was self-deprecating type stuff, and then
But it was like gamer stuff,
and
right?
the gamer stuff, yeah. But so, is there, to be on his side on it, to not be like a character assassination? Is this similar to people who find fame just from nowhere and become really famous, and then they have like a weird downward spiral? We mentioned it in the last episode about the guy who played Anakin Skywalker in the Phantom Menace, and maybe like your Corey Feldmans and things of the world. Where is there something there?
You're saying Boogie's going to be doing Michael Jackson like songs soon?
I don't know what I'm saying. I don't really know what I mean. I don't really know what I mean. Is it just an equivalent thing?
No, I think it is an equivalent thing in that, because it's the same thing. You get a lot of fame, a lot of notoriety, a lot of money, and then it goes away. And then you're furiously, trying to swim against the tide to get back to where you were, and you might not be able to. And then you get to a point where you're assassinating your own character, and I think it's sad. And so I think that is an apt. It is the dark, sad life of Boogie, but not necessarily, because it's, like you said, we don't know how much of it is an act. And even if it is an act, it's sad because he's pulling his own name through the mud to get some money and to get some notoriety, because he doesn't want to go back and do jobs like us schlubs have to do. And, so I think it's a weird byproduct of the technological age and the way that you can get famous sitting in your room talking to camera. And there is a lot of just kind of peeking in on the side. There's so much drama and people going back and forth, and we're talking about it because of the themes of it, but people that are really into it just because of the person, and it's very gossipy.
Yeah.
Like there's YouTube videos I've seen where guys are just like crocheting and like, well, I hear that he did this, and it's very
there is a lot of that gossipy nature about it, and there's people take great delight in picking this character apart.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a worldwide gossip session. And
to be fair,
almost
we're
worldwide
doing
bullying.
To be fair, we are doing a show about his documentary, but it's not something where we're going to continue just to go on and gossip about different YouTubers. But that's a part of it. That's a part of it that's weird.
Even just talking about this, is this podcast right now one of these? Is this now become a drama type thing? Because I don't think we're not supposed to be doing that. This is supposed to be dissecting a documentary.
This is one episode,
and not adding fuel to the fire.
And we came up on it when we talked about Bob Lazar. Because the intention is not to go, hey, let's laugh at this guy.
Yeah.
Or to go, oh, what a piece of shit this guy is.
Yeah.
It's more like what made me interested in it was, what does it mean about me that I like watching this stuff? And what does it mean society-wide, in the sense of like what you're talking about, the idea of you only live once and living like you don't have a care in the world. Where does that take you? And I also wanted to tie it into, we talked about having a midlife crisis. You can see, and again, we're trying to judge how much of this is acted versus how much is really stuff he's going through. It seems like he had so many periods that he could redirect, that he could stop, and that he would even stop, it seems like, and say to the audience, I hear what you're saying, and self-assess and make some corrections, and just never did. And just
That's interesting.
going.
Yeah, 2 points there then. That's interesting, that. I think he has lacked someone to just a bit of guidance, someone to just tell him when to reel it back.
Well, and I don't know if he has, because, I think you're a friend I have that would do this, and I have other friends and my wife and other people in my life that if I was going off course, to be like, ugh, all right, this is not, you got to like fix this. you're being an asshole here, you know.
And they might say that about this episode.
Maybe, yeah, they'll watch this episode.
I think they might.
We need to redirect.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to have people in your life, especially even more so when you're successful. Hopefully it's the same people that were in your life before you got successful.
Yeah.
Who are not afraid to look at you and go, this isn't, you're going a place that you don't want to go. And it's always hard to hear. But if you haven't got anyone.
Well,
and what's difficult
is... He hasn't got anyone, has he? He hasn't got anyone.
There's a lot of, I think, because I think this ties in with the episode where you're talking about midlife crisis and everything. There's a lot of ego death. There's a lot of awful eating of crow that because when that happens, you're going down a road and then you realize, oh, I've been making an ass of myself. And there's like sort of like you have to not take yourself seriously to even acknowledge that, oh, you're right, I took this too far, and it's embarrassing, that first step. And in the end, it's always, I think, more fulfilling when you can like better yourself. It's you cringe at stuff you did in the past, and if you're much different now, it feels better. But if you're not, if you're doing the same thing, it really hurts. And yeah, it looks like either he didn't have the people in his life that would tell him, or he thought he knew better, or it's very tough to, if you're successful and you do something and you get 4 million people to like you, it's tough to go, oh, I'm going to change, because it's like that. It's like that Pavlovian response of like,
you have to.
I do this, I get these people adore me.
Yeah, you keep saying things that makes me want to keep like adding points. Like what you just said then, that reminds me of even the way my channel, like you do loads of things quite scattershot, and then one thing will hit off. And you'll realise that you have to do that ad infinitum. And that's probably what happened with Boogie when this Francis character took off. But what I was going to say, what my second point earlier was just that when you mentioned midlife crisis, that's probably quite relevant, because lots of people go through midlife crisis, right? Drinking or whatever, and or just various things in life. But they don't necessarily play it out in front of the world. And imagine going through, and I think a midlife crisis is a real thing. It become a point in your life where you reevaluate. But imagine doing that to a stage that already wants to hate you, right?
Yeah. No, it's awful.
And is there an element of it where you? Oh, I see. I think the minute you start losing people might be the minute that you start being more and more outrageous to try and
I agree.
Get some clicks back. So I'm just reading on his Wikipedia page about some of the things
Madonna.
he's done.
Look at Madonna.
Yeah.
And it's sad, and I'm not going to make fun of her, but it's just sad, and it's because she was the pinnacle of everyone's conversation, and now she's not, and she's getting older, and it's sad.
Yeah.
Good.
I am still glancing over at the Wikipedia page, and it's a shame, because it does make it very difficult for me to stick by my. Oh, he's probably not all that bad. I watched some of his videos. I quite liked his genuine. And you read some of the stuff he said, and you think, well, why did you say that?
And it's difficult.
Do you really mean that?
Yeah, and it's difficult because I've watched an hour-long documentary and maybe a couple other like half-hour videos about the guy, so I can't tell you if he's an awful person or a great person that's misunderstood. Truth is I don't know him. So like for me, it's not about like that. It's about just those things. And I think what you were saying about the midlife crisis, and it's a real thing. I think to be healthy is to self-assess more often. And we can't do it constantly, but to be able to take a breath and look at where you're at and go, do I really want to be here? And what are the decisions you're making? And it's difficult. And I think not only to have people that tell you you're going too far, but to have a support system around you of people that are understanding and will help and just listen sometimes. And maybe he didn't have that. Because I think that's super important.
It sounds like he did have a troubled. I don't know if it sounds like he's had a bit of a troubled life, I think.
And what's difficult is it is a real thing, and I know and have experienced things, and we all have, and they leave scars and they leave it's hard to deal with, and there is stuff there, but yeah, when you use it too much, even if it's real, people tune you out. And I think you see it a lot, unfortunately, with people with drug addictions and with alcohol. That story of like, they get clean and they promise to do better, and then they go back to doing the same thing. And there's personal responsibility, but there's also, they're not maybe awful people. They're just caught in the throes of an addiction that's like built on other things. But people get sick of the excuses, even though they're valid. But I see both sides. It's a weird, you know.
I was just thinking, I might just do like some B-roll stuff. I might just go when we've finished in a second, right? And insert at various points during this podcast, I'm going to go and put a pair of like hot pants, little jean tighties on, and just walk away from the camera with my arse hanging out, right? And then I might just jump in a bathtub. I would do it with you, but
No,
you're
thanks.
you're across the Atlantic. But
thanks.
I think just a close up of my arse cheeks hanging out of a pair of hot pants
man.
would definitely make this podcast. It would make it sell. It's all about the clicks. We need a title.
Oh yeah, we need a title. Oh, I will say a little housekeeping. I think we're going to do a fun facts episode next week or 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, we're not doing any more drama exposés.
Yeah, we always, that
Because it hasn't gone well. We've mentioned the word too many times.
We always go, let's review this show. That'll be good. And then it never. Every time we do it, every time. Speaking of self-assessment, every time we do it, we go, that'll be good,
Christ.
and then it does worse than any video because people go,
Yeah.
I didn't watch that show. I'm not going to listen to this. And we go, oh, we'll never do that again. And then like a month later, I'm like, hey, did you watch that Loki? Loki's pretty good. Let's do that.
And funny, and for this one, because I know no one's going to watch it, I don't mind anymore. But there's certainly no one out there going, oh, we really need to know what Bill and Mercurial number 6 think about this documentary.
Yeah, just the
on
facts.
Boogie2988.
Yeah, I think just the facts next week.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And then.
But overall, did we like the documentary? It's a bit. We've got to be careful because it's not like it's like a big proper funded BBC Netflix type thing. It's literally a YouTuber just putting it together. I thought it was quite well edited. Didn't like the subtitles.
No, I thought
But
the
overall-
documentary was very well made. Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite good. I want to kind of end on a high note because I don't want it to be like a character assassination or a documentary assassination. I thought overall it was pretty good. I would definitely change the CCs. Boogie was I thought he was actually quite funny, and if it was for real, oh my god. And and if it was all put on Jerry Springer style, then good on them. I'll shake their hands.
What if
What
it
did you
was
think,
real?
Bill?
What if it was real? What if it was completely real?
Oh, it probably was completely real because it is America.
I was in Hawaii, and in Hawaii they learn jujitsu like we learn t-ball, or you might learn football. So they all know how to fight. And I, at the time, hard to believe, I didn't have a ton of money. I was living in the basement of a recording studio, and I weighed like 80 pounds soaking wet. So I go into the this club with
Everyone's
my
got a
buddy
story.
who's a Marine, and this Hawaiian guy is like really drunk, and he comes up and he does that fight thing where they like lean in like they're gonna kiss you, but it's like a tough guy thing. And I'm thinking to myself, this guy is gonna beat the living hell out of me because it's like I've been in like street fights, but I don't have professional training. So I whispered in his ear. I said, I go, I just want you to know when this is over that you're the one that started it. And he kind of looked at me and he just backed away. And my buddy Mike, who's actually he's like, what did you say to that guy? And the funny thing is he would have beat the piss out of me if he called my bluff.
What an amazing story. Do you know what that reminds me of? It's almost like Alec Guinness in the original Star Wars. These
There are
aren't
no
the droids you're looking
droids
for.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say either you're the same level as a real classic English actor, or you're a Jedi. Take your pick.
Yeah.
I think I'll go for the actor.
I like a little of both.
Ooh,
The
you want
Force
to be a
is with
Jedi
me.
actor?
Jedi actor, yeah.
Oh yeah. I act with the
I
power.
don't, I don't like what's going on now. Can I do that? You will stop making orgasmic sounds.
Viewers, this must be like nearly the 50th episode of the podcast now, and I think the listeners are now used to a little bit of a. I think it's because I was brought up on the Carry On films. Kenneth Williams, Charles Hawtrey, Sid James. Right, I think. Well, so we liked it. Did we like it or did we not like the documentary?
Yes, I liked it. I would also recommend Alan Wake 2, which I have just finished, and it was fantastic.
Cool. Is that like an alternative to paracetamol?
That is that is like
I don't know. Does it cure a headache?
Gay. It's like Ben Gay. I said Ben's gay. It's
Who's Ben?
a video. It's a video game made by Remedy. They're a Swedish developer. They're one of my favorite developers.
Swedish.
They made Max Payne, which you might have played.
Ooh. That is an alternative to oh no, I'm ruining my own joke because I can't remember the name. Hang on,
Elbow
it's going to
pain?
come to me. Penicillin. No, Max Payne. No, Nurofen. Oh, Max Payne. That's Max Payne. Is that the Max Payne? Is that the alternative to Nurofen?
Max Payne is when I hit my shin on something when I'm walking. I get Max Payne.
Oh God. You can,
And then
let me just
they made
drink some more decaffeinated
Alan Wake
coffee.
1. They made Control, decaf coffee. That's right. But yeah, they're really story-focused, single-player. It's very surrealist and weird. It's a AAA developer that's not afraid to take weird artistic decisions, and I think it really pays off, and I really enjoyed it and would recommend
What the hell is going on? Are we sponsored by bloody Alan Wake now or something? Are you doing a promo, an advert, a commercial on our podcast? Anyway, until next time, over and